Hey guys, Mike with Epic Duck Studios here, bringing you part 6 of the Tau Orca project log. I'm in my basement currently, where I'm setting up my new painting workshop. And I'll give you a little tour here. This is the desk I keep my paints and models on. This is the desk I actually work on. You can see the Orca there. Keep some other stuff up top, tools, rubber gloves, paint, gravel, whatever. And this would be the filming table. These are some apparatus that actually painter Paul and I are working on. This is actually a really cool thing Paul's kind of coming up with that'll hold a model effectively in the same point in 3D space while it's being painted. So as a painter, we can move it to any angle, but the camera only has to focus on one spot. And this is the light box I'm building to accompany it. Hopefully this works out really well and produces some really cool videos for you guys. Remains to be seen yet, we're still kind of in the trial phases. But that's not what you're here to see. You're here to see the Orca. So you can see the hull is now fully assembled. And the gap filling is done. All the way around, under the engine, under the other engine. So you can see here, most of the gaps are filled with a gray material. I used something called Tamiya putty, which is basically gray plastic in a toothpaste tube. You just put the tube up to the crack, squirt it in, smooth it out a little bit, let it dry. It takes about as long as green stuff does to dry, then you sand it off. It's great stuff, and I really recommend it if you have any large gaps in either your plastic or resin models. And the fact that it's the same gray color as GW plastic or Forge World resin really just makes the model look more complete while you're working on it. It's kind of cool. You can see I also did use some green stuff. I basically used that on the deeper areas and where there was a 90-degree angle that needed to be filled, because it was a little bit difficult getting the Tamiya putty into a 90-degree angle. I did manage it on the one side, but I decided green stuff would just be less work, so I used it over here. So this is the Tamiya putty. You can see it really is just a toothpaste tube full of gray plastic. The instructions are entirely in Japanese. I can infer that it's flammable, and I'm going to assume at least one part of this says to use in a well-ventilated area. This stuff smells really funky, and you get a little bit of a buzz while you're working with it, so I'm going to leave it at that and say if you use this, use it in a well-ventilated area, and preferably let the model dry for a couple hours after you put this stuff on in an area people don't have to live in. Like, put it in the garage or hide it in the basement workshop, whatever you have to do. Don't leave it in the middle of the kitchen table, because this stuff just smells really funky and you don't want everyone in your house, even one person in your house, really breathing it for any prolonged period of time. But it does work really well. You can pick up Tamiya products at pretty much any hobby store that sells model kits like World War II planes, boats, that kind of thing. Or if they sell remote control cars, they often have Tamiya products as well. So you can see I've started putting base coats on the crew and their chairs. Really not a lot to show you there yet because it is just the base coat stage right now. But I hope that they'll be done either tonight or sometime tomorrow. And I'll do an update as soon as they are. And you remember I showed you one of the engines had a little bit of shipping damage. One of these two nozzles was just really banged up and almost missing. This is the missing one, and you can see here I've sculpted a replacement using brown stuff. It's almost a perfect match, aside from the fact that it's brown, but paint will fix that part. The outside shape is nearly flawless. It's a little bit more flawed on the inside area, but I feel it's a very good replacement, and it's definitely better than waiting for Forge World to ship me a replacement motor just because of this. I used brown stuff rather than green stuff here because brown stuff does hold sharp angles better, and it also tends to hold upright better while it's drying. And because I basically had to lay this flat and have this stand straight up while it was hardening, I didn't want to use green stuff because green stuff tends to sag and droop a little bit while it's hardening, whereas brown stuff retains its shape better. That's the difference between brown stuff and green stuff. I have had people ask me. Basically, brown stuff stays harder and holds sharp details better while it's hardening. Green stuff usually needs a little bit of reinforcement to do that. I don't have the command center to show you right now. It's actually in my next room, being airbrushed at the moment, and I'm letting the current coat of the airbrushing dry. It was a little bit wet, unfortunately. That also means I don't want to pick it up at the moment. So I'll have that for you, hopefully about the same time the crew are done. Might just have that as a completed scene to show you if all goes well. Okay, so that's Tau Orca project log number 6. Number 7, there's actually going to be some paint on this model, which is going to be really, really cool. Looking forward to it. See you then.